Hormozi's always like, just do more for a long time over everybody else, and you're sure to win. That's true.
Yeah.
Put those glasses
twitch.
back on, Dan.
No, I'm not a dork, dude.
No, we got to be able to call you Grandpa Dan.
Those are readers. That's what he's got.
Yeah.
It was like a habit. I didn't mean to put them on. It's like habit. I put them on. I was like, God damn it. But it's like their blue light. My eyes have been twitching, staring at the screen so much.
Well, you got the intro, so put them on. Nobody will notice. You'll be fine. You're gonna be like Clark Kent. No one will even know that's you.
Right. Though they won't even know.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Collecting Keys. I am Mike DeHaan here with my co-hosts Dan Austin and Dylan Cook. Recording this on New Year's Day. I don't know. I don't think you're hungover, Dan. I know you get hungover from not sleeping well because you're old.
I had a few cocktails last night, watched the CNN New Year's Eve show with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen. So yeah, I guess I am old.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you watch like network TV. That's that's probably one of the most boomer things that you do.
I know. I still have YouTube TV.
Oh, YouTube TV.
Yeah.
That's what you do now because, the cable companies are the same price. And
yeah, it is. Yeah, I like it. I don't watch it ever. That was the first time I've watched TV, like actual TV. Like I watched Netflix and stuff like that. Probably since last New Year's.
Yeah. It's funny. We haven't had TV for a long time. We just have all the streaming services. It's the same amount of money, but
$1
basically
billion.
it's just less ads. And when was home for Christmas, like my parents will watch TV. The amount of like commercials is insane.
Dude.
Like I can't believe that I used to watch that on like a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then what's funny is there will be some of the shows that you can like stream. And if you like the time on Netflix will be like 38 minutes, but that's an hour time slot on the freaking TV, dude. That means there's 22 minutes of ads.
Yeah. You just get yours on Instagram, dude. When you're scrolling, you're like, oh, there's another ad. There's another influencer.
But that's at least
bullshit.
Like targeted for me. That's not like Flomexa.
Oh, I know.
For,
it's targeted for your parents' age, though.
Better circulation
Exactly.
in your whatever appendage is currently suffering, like.
That's hilarious.
If I start getting those targeted ads on social media, I guess that means it's time to hang it up.
Yeah, TV, like generalized, like TV, like network TV is garbage, though. Like, I mean, you really think about it. There's just, it's mostly, I guess, if I go to someone's house and like they have something on, I don't think people watch shows. It's just mostly news. And so you go to their house,
sports.
it's like MSNBC.
ESPN, so I think it's on at our house. Or the baking channel if my wife is watching TV.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, my parents pretty much watch sports, and like that's, or like
soccer on.
My dad's a big football guy.
Oh, really?
Even though I'm not.
Who's his team?
He doesn't care. He likes
the
players.
Yeah.
So like my dad, my mom went to USC, and so my parents have always sort of watched USC football.
Big Pete Carroll fan.
Yeah, they were big Pete Carroll fan back in the day. I mean, like during like the dynasty era for sure.
Yeah,
but like my dad will get into like players, and then he'll like sort of follow whatever player, like whatever team they're on.
Yeah, that's my father-in-law is kind of like that with Pete. I mean, he has his teams, right? Because you grow up like for him, he grew up in Chicago, but like he knows all the players on different things. Like he gets into that stuff, and
yeah, I get that. I mean, like with Gonzaga basketball, I always see like the Zags, but then when like the good players come through and go to the NBA. I will have more of a vested interest if there is like a team in the NBA final that has like 3 Zags on it than if it's just some random team.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't give a shit about that team the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But, now it's like, well, the Thunder's in, game 6. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of care now because they have 3 Zags on their second line.
Right. Yeah. I went to that Zags game and I saw, what's his name? Damn it. What's the dude that's legit? I can't, and I'm just blanking on his name. I see the picture in my face.
The dude that's legit.
Like
he's in the NBA. Could be anybody.
John Stockton.
Croatian? Is he Croatian? No, he's
Sabonis.
Yeah,
he comes to the games a lot.
Yeah, he was like literally just like 3 seats away, like across the aisle, 3 seats away. I was like, damn, that dude's just as big as he was
must
in
have
college.
some family connection here or something as well because he's at the games pretty often.
They retired his. He definitely has got family connections. I mean, look at the Eastern European population here.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, he knows some people. He's got a flooring store here too, I think.
Do they really?
No.
He could have convinced
sells
me.
cabinets on the side, man.
No shit. But well, anyways, 2025 I think wrapped up pretty decent for all of us. Lending business had a very, very strong finish to the year, which is great. I know we talked about where your stuff kind of finished out as well, Dylan. But you had one of the conversations that you brought up here, Dylan, I think would actually be a pretty good one to jump into going into the new year. So I feel like it's pretty decent conversation around setting goals and like quote unquote New Year's resolutions or whatever people want to call them. But you had when is the right time to dig in, not give up, make it through hard times, come up on the other side, versus knowing it's a sinking ship and it's better to get off the ship entirely. And sometimes picking the right boat is the important factor, i.e., let's see, buy and holding real estate anytime from 2009 to 21. Sometimes entrepreneurship is just recognizing opportunity. And I feel like that's a good sort of conversation to go down for this one, just because at the core, when people make New Year's resolutions, new year, new them, that's really what they're trying to do, right? Is they're trying to figure out what things in their life they feel like are not working and how are they going to improve them. You know, whether that's in business, whether that's personally, whether that's in their marriage, their finances, their health, whatever.
When your people are doing these New Year's resolutions or goals, what they'd say, and I know this is advice that's been given before, it's like make them specific, right? Don't just say I want to be healthier, right? Have like a weight goal or I want to work out 3 days a week or whatever it may be. Make sure they're specific, you know, on time, measurable, and all. I think their SMART goals is the right acronym for that. And the second half to that is like, it's just, you know, with my own business, I'm kind of asking those questions to myself is, you know, I even said in last week's podcast, like, I don't want to be doing this next 5 years, but this business is hard right now. And is it hard for what reasons? And is it better if now that I've have these improved skill sets, an increased network, a better financial position, just look at other avenues and paths versus just doing the same thing over again? Whereas I still have the confidence that I know if I stayed with it and just probably worked harder or took a couple new angles here and there, I would probably still be successful. But is this, how successful do you want to be? And is there an easier way to do that? Like I guess a synopsis is lesser input, greater output, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so when it comes to making that decision, right, and like sort of looking at the big picture, I think the most challenging thing for people is to be truly subjective about it and not like emotional, right? Because everyone, when they are faced with adversity, I feel like especially if you're coming off of a period where things felt easier, the adversity always like feels a little bit harder, you know? It's easy to have like an emotional response to whatever and make rational decisions. Like that's why most people are not successful, is because they face their first bit of challenge and their initial emotional response is to quit, do something different, fall off the wagon, whatever, right? When you're new, it's really hard to get past that because you don't have what I think is really important. And I think that that's data, right? But when you're an established business owner, you know, if you're listening to this, you've probably owned some real estate, you've probably flipping houses, wholesaling, have a business, whatever. The realistic thing you need to do is look at your data over the most recent period of time, right? Like whether like the time that you think was challenging versus the time that you think was things were going better, and just make a decision on, is the data actually showing that things are worse, or you just feel like it is because you feel like you're having to put in more hours, right? Like, is your return on ad spend actually lower? Is your profitability actually lower? Are you doing less deals? You know, why do you think that is? And is this a you problem or is this an industry standard problem? You know, I think that this is also why it's really important to be networking with other similar tiered and like-minded people, whether this is in online communities, whether this is in mastermind groups, whatever. You need to kind of know what's going on, because if you just go and look on social media, what you're going to see is you're going to see either people's highlight reels, or you're going to see like their one win of the year, or you're going to see people that are full of shit, right? You're going to see like dumb shit like Josh and Tiffany Hyde posting that all of their sales guys get like 8 contracts in their first month. I'm like, fuck that.
Totally, that's so truthful.
Yeah. You know, like that, because that's what you get fed, because that's what the social media algorithms want to show you. What they don't tell you is that of those 8 contracts they get, 7 of them get dropped because they're trash, and so they actually only get 1. You know, totally. And if you can connect with like real business owners and see how your data compares to theirs, how that's how you get like a realistic sort of view on the health of the industry. And then you can decide if it's a you problem or it's an industry problem. When it comes to our like bigger and better opportunities, I would say that a lot of that comes down to preference, right? And like kind of what your opinion is of bigger and better, you know, because if like the best opportunity that you're going to have in the short term is always going to be what you're already good at. But if you look over something like a 5-year time horizon, real estate is honestly a pretty challenging industry if you want to make like big money. If you want to make like tens or 20, 20s of millions of dollars, real estate is a hard business to produce that in cash. You can make that in equity, right? But like there's very, very few people that do that as real estate people, where you actually like, you're like rich, you're not just like wealthy.
Mm-hmm. And the other, I guess, thing you and Dan, your opinion on is too, is like, what about maybe the few percentage of people that like, they're kind of killing it. Like they're doing well, but they also wake up, you're like, I don't want to fucking do this today. I don't want to do this any day, and you have a weeks of that in a row. Right. Mm-hmm. But you're still making good money. There's just the intangible side. There's no fulfillment. There's no happiness that comes with it. There's no joy.
Yeah.
But that goes back. That's a very subjective thing to try to measure.
Yeah. And that goes back to the whole cheesy notion of like, what's your why?
Yeah.
And sure. Like, why are you doing it? But also, and I would say this has really become apparent to me as Dan and I have moved, we sold out of Backyard Home Buyers and moved towards a lending company. I personally haven't experienced this quite as much, but sorry, Dan, I'll put you on the spot. I have seen this in you, the change in your temperament and like your excitement and just like general mood and energy now that we have focused on the lending business, where I know that you are more interested in that industry. We have momentum, everything else, right? Versus the real estate business that felt like a dead end with where we were at. Mm-hmm. Like that is something that is very, very real, and that matters a lot because it makes it a lot easier to be going through the grind and doing the hard things when you don't hate it. And I think that there's always like a novelty piece when you
you're like
do something new,
getting it.
Yeah. Well, if you're being successful at anything, it's fun, right? Especially when you start out, but then that wears off and then you're less like, this success isn't what I'm really after. And I think for me personally, and I don't know where you guys come in at, but I have a feeling it's like, I don't know any of us that got into real estate to be real estate people for like ever. There was like something else. Like real estate was a way to do it, and maybe real estate was supposed to be the thing that gets you there. But it's like when you look back, what actually drew you into it? It was like, this idea of passive income or this idea of leveraging debt to be able to build wealth quicker than you could have. And we did it. All of us entered the market at a time when that was the opportunity, more so than the stock market when you don't have lots of cash. I mean, think about it. Right. Like none of us could have built that same level of wealth just investing in the stock market because we didn't have the cash up front, right? Yeah, so you have to build that level of wealth to be able to do that without something like real estate because of the leverage piece. And there's a lot of benefits of it. I think a lot of the benefits have been oversold by gurus of why you should get into real estate. And it's just to draw people in to buy shitty deals or buy their courses or whatever. But
which is where they actually make their money, right?
Actually where they make their money. That's where they're making hand over fist money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like going back to one of my mentors said several years ago, like on that note, I think about this quote a lot, and I really like it. I repeat it pretty regularly. Is I went to a mastermind with him down in Austin, and he started it up on the board he had. Real estate is not the thing. Real estate is the thing to get you to the thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so true for like the vast majority of people. Like that's one of the reasons you don't see a lot of people that have been flipping houses for 10 years. People either crash out or they make their money and they move on to something else that has a higher velocity of money, right? That has like more enterprise value, that is easier to hire for, that is easier to scale.
There's less variables.
Less variables, less downside risk. Because like also like if you look at real estate in general, the downside risk that exists both internally and from external factors is pretty nuts, honestly, right? Like internally because of the debt that you have to take on to do every project, you're gonna do it at scale. Unless you have millions and millions of dollars, you have to take on debt to buy every house, right? And then the external factors of not only the housing market, like in a literal sense, but also what is the sentiment around real estate, right? From the public, from the banks, right? From your investors, from your buyers, and all those things affect your profitability, what your holding cost is on everything, how possible it's going to be for you to refinance or exit your hard money debt. Right. Because like, even if the general public thinks that real estate's like fine, but all the banks are like, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to tighten up all of our restrictions. You can't pay off your hard money and you're screwed.
Yep.
I
mean, just appraisers, lenders,
Yeah.
contractors, title companies, insurance people, material costs. Like I could list up probably 20 things that are just things that you cannot control during your own deal.
A lot of
And that-
inputs and one output. Which
Yeah,
is you
and like
exiting.
all of those, you'd be like, me and my buddy that's here always say the one time, like the hardest part of real estate is relying on other people because you have to. There's no way around it. You can't personally fix every house you want to do if you're going to do 10 houses. Like,
This is true.
Yeah. So I always sort of go back to the notion. I think real estate is an amazing business to make your first bit of money. But once you kind of have that, you need to decide if the struggle is still worth it to continue trying to make that same amount of money. Right.
And this is where the whole argument is. Hormozi is always like, just do more for a long time over everybody else and you're sure to win. That's true. But also on the other side of that is, when do you know, like, okay, kill that, take that behind the barn and shoot it and try something else.
Right.
And like, you're still stacking those skill sets. Like you're still in a better place going to option B because of your experience with option A. But it's just like, when do you get off the horse? I don't know.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is if real estate's going to be your thing, or you're going to stay real estate adjacent, which is probably a good idea. Because if you've ran this business for 3 to 4 years at any solid level and like, paid your bills and fed your family, like you have a really good skill set. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to stay adjacent as opposed to going and trying to start a brick and mortar, something XYZ. But, like going into something that can be more systematized and where you can truly hire yourself out of, like the wholesaling business. Like Mike and I have tried it. I know Dylan, you're kind of in that process and you've done it a lot, but there's a certain level that you can't take yourself out of it, because the reason why your company's been so successful is because of you as the individual. It's super hard to replicate. So the answer is, do you go back out, you shoot it in that, shoot it out back, or what? I think you got to transition to something if you want to stay relatively close to real estate. Maybe that's becoming a developer, maybe that's becoming a builder, which a lot of guys do. Maybe that's becoming a lender.
Some people start construction companies too.
Exactly, because you have a great skill set. And I'll talk about just briefly one of the guys, one of my good friends, is really focusing in 2026 more so on like a turnkey, using his skill set to market to and find, and using his crews. He's a really good systems guy. He basically can run a construction company. And so his focus is moving away from just being a fully integrated, like wholesale flip, buy, hold guy, to how do I bring in more income and revenue through my other connections, which he has connections with guys that want some tax benefits in real estate. So how does he bring them in and then essentially run a construction company, a turnkey company, which is more systematizable? And the cash on cash return doesn't need to be 30% like some of us want, or infinite, right? It could be 12 to 15 to 18, which that's a great transactional, pace to be in with that ROI.
Totally.
Yeah. And what I think the important thing there is figuring out, so if you're going to do something real estate adjacent, or you're going to not like move away from real estate company, figuring out which part of that business that you were successful in was the part that you actually liked, and being able to just find something that focuses on that piece of it. So I know who you're talking about with that. And I remember him posting on social media and meeting with him last year at the GoBundance event in Snowbird. And a lot of the stuff that he gets like fired up about was like, he would be like designing like a kitchen layout that was like efficient for his rentals on his computer. Right. And so like making the transition to like, having a systematized renovation thing that he can turn into current income, that makes sense. Like for me, that would suck. I don't give a shit about the house.
That's not your
right.
part.
But it's like, the construction side, like don't go and try and be a construction guy if you didn't like the construction piece of your real estate business. Just like if you really, really sucked at like the marketing piece of your wholesaling company and you hated that, don't go and try and start an e-commerce company. You're going to hate it. That entire business is marketing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important to sort of look at like the big picture and understand that business in general is like very broad. Right. But the different like tiers of business, marketing, sales, systems, creating an offer, whatever, they're all kind of the same. And once you know what piece you really get fired up about, you can take that and you can find an industry or a business that best aligns and allows you to do that the most. And it doesn't feel that heavy, So like even for us right now, what I like doing, I like leading a team. I like piecing together systems that create efficiency for us to have a higher velocity of money. And so like for the lending business, what's great is it's very easy for us to hire people that have experience. We have a processor starting here on Monday that has like 20 years of experience in the industry.
Yep.
You're never going to find someone in the wholesale business that has
20
20 years of experience is going to
not.
be an employee, right?
Yeah.
So we can hire good team members, and I spend most of my time figuring out how to piece together the back end stuff so that we can be as efficient as possible with going from lead intake to quoting price to the sales team, pushing it to the processing team, and then we can try to close it out.
Which I will say, like that skill set alone is it's somewhat unique because I don't know a lot of people that have it, which is literally just taking and putting systems and connecting them together. Because what happens is eventually that happens for a business that grows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it like what business owner is going to be good at marketing, sales, and operations all really well? Like very few.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be good at one of those, and you're going to suffer by having to pay additional labor or additional inefficiencies to have those systems. And I'm not saying you need to systematize your business to the T, because some of it's just going to be Google Sheets, right? And that's okay. But that skill set alone helps. I think that's one of our advantages as a business is we can go from 0 to 100 so much faster because we don't need to hire all these people, and all these handoffs between people becomes inefficiencies, mistakes, problems. It's like, now let's use a system to do that, or let's have a way to track it so that Mike or I can watch it and view it. Because if you can't see what your team's doing when you're in a virtual company, it's near impossible to scale.
Yeah. And you have me who's perfectly okay being the nerd that like spends, you know, the weekend writing scripts that actually like pulls the data from our sales system to push it into our loan origination system, right?
Totally.
But I like that because I'm a fucking dork, right? That's just who I am. You know, but like you're right.
You're a dork with money now.
I'm a dork with money for sure. You know, and because like to your point, Dan, that's what has allowed us to scale pretty quickly and get a decent velocity of money going in all of our businesses. Because even going back to like the wholesale business when we first started it, one of the reasons we were able to ramp up pretty quick was because I really geeked out and like focused on how do we have efficient data for marketing. And so for a long time, dude, for years, I remember we would talk to people and like our cost per deal versus like our profitability was like insane compared to other people. We'd be getting like 11, 12, 14%. And it was because I was enough of a nerd that I was going to the spreadsheets and making sure that all of our data was good. You know, we were doing the ROS, we were doing all those other things that the average business owner is not going to do. But that adds up. And then if you get like big enough, you can outsource that. You can hire someone to build your back-end processes. So I was listening to an Alex Hormozi podcast, and he was doing like his like call-in thing. And somebody was saying that basically what they do is they offer like system development for bigger businesses. And he was asking him what he charged, all sort of stuff. And he's like, Alex is like, yeah, you're not charging enough. And he goes, how much did we just pay those guys to like do our CRM integration? He like says to someone off camera. And the guy's like, it's like $40,000 is what we just paid these people for a month worth of work.
Wow.
Right. And so you think about that, like what it takes for a small business to be able to afford someone to come and like build a CRM. And I guarantee you who they paid 40 grand to was probably just like some dipshit with
integrator.
like, some Salesforce integrator with like some Indian VAs like went and put it together.
Yep.
You know, but it's 40 grand is what they charge because they can, because that's what the value is to the companies that they're chasing.
And here's the thing is you can't do that as a small business owner. So how do you do that efficiently without spending 40 grand? You got to be able to do these pieces because there's not enough hours in the day to do everything manual.
Well, that goes back to the input thing. Like I could look at all the data and I could, if I said, okay, I want to take my wholesale business and do 7 figures net profit, I know all the inputs to get us there. Like that wouldn't be the problem. The problem would be the execution and who you have to hire and bring on for that. Right. Like, totally. And that part to me is the harder part than just figuring out what the answer actually is or what the inputs are.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a hard piece of control.
It is. And I think in like the wholesale business, especially, the inefficiency that you get at each phase is so massive because like realistically your transaction volume for the team that you need is relatively small. Like in terms of like transactions per person. And then I think one of the hardest things about like wholesaling and flipping real estate is your lead measures, your cost per deal, your marketing costs, everything else can be the same, but your profitability of each deal varies so wildly much. You know, like you can have a cost per deal of $4,000. That deal could make you $6,000. It could make you $60,000. You don't know. But you know that your input's going to be the same every single time. And so that's why you see like these huge fluctuations. That's also why it's super suspect when you see some of these people that are building out these like huge businesses and they're doing like, you know, $1 million a month or whatever, is you don't know what their input costs are.
Yeah.
You know, because if they're doing $1 million a month, but they're spending $900,000 a month on marketing,
doesn't
right?
matter.
It doesn't matter. Like it's kind of a pointless thing. They might as well just spend $9,000 or 90,000 make, 100 grand or whatever.
Yeah, that's the argument of like scale within the wholesale flipping business, because there's a sweet spot. Dylan, I would say you're probably in that sweet spot where your profit percentage is still high. Because you keep going, then you have to add in additional labor, additional systems, and your profit margin gets degraded. So say you double your revenue, but you also double your operational costs, you get the exact same amount of
the wholesaling business is almost opposite from like the business that you want with the high enterprise value, because the SaaS businesses, they write the code and then they have 80% margins. Right. Like this is you have all the same inputs, but your margins get lower. No, like they have to. There's no way they get bigger as you scale.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, though, and that's why it's a business that's great for making your first batch of money. Is you can be like a one-person hustler and make $400,000 a year.
Yeah, this kind of sounds like we've been like racking on or like shitting on wholesale real estate. It's changed my life. Don't get me wrong; these past like 4 years have been like great. But we'll see what the next 4
but it's like this is my opinion. It's a get in, get out business, and when I say get in, get out, it might be 5, 7, 8 years for you. It might be 10 years. Like that might be your get out phase is 10 years. But, for Mike and I, what would you say as far as wholesalers? It was what, 5 years? 5 years. That was our get, which I think for us was probably reasonable. We did a lot of different stuff in that time frame, but you could build millions of dollars of wealth and great income and set yourself up as a business owner. And, Mike and I hired a business coach several years ago now. Is like marketing, sales, and operations. Like every business has marketing, sales, and operations. Once you fundamentally understand how those connect, you can essentially replicate that. And like we talked about earlier, maybe it's to a real estate adjacent business. So if you want to continue to be an entrepreneur and you want to continue to grow, but you want to transition out of like the hustle of the wholesale business, there's a way to do it. You just got to understand you have to market for your business, what that looks like. You have to sell your product, and you have to like complete the order or do the operational phase of that business. Like that's fundamentally all it is.
Yeah.
Simple.
Totally. And I think to the original point of the conversation, it's not necessarily that we're shitting on it. It's like, how do you know if it's time to move on to something different? It just comes down to look at the data, right? Decide if you're being emotional about your current situation or if subjectively things are challenging. And then also be realistic about like how you feel about it. If it feels like it's a drag, and there's only like certain parts of the business that you like and you find that you're neglecting the other parts that you don't, see if it's worth making a change. And then you just have to decide if you're actually like not liking it anymore, or you're just burned out and you take a break. That's also possible if you just give yourself the ability to go on vacation for 2 weeks. Yeah, you won't make any money for 2 weeks, whatever, and you come back and you're like, oh, I actually feel good about it again. But if you leave for 2 weeks and you're like, man, I'd never want to go and do that again, then you probably need to figure something out.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's a good pivot time.
Yeah,
that's a good time to think about pivoting.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, so wrapping on that. What do you guys? So I have no prep for this. I just thought about it right now, but I feel like we need to do this because it is the first of the year.
Okay.
What do you think? I need one extreme prediction for 2026.
Oh God, I don't know.
It could be any prediction.
It can be any prediction. Yeah, it doesn't have to be housing related. It can be whatever. I want something that like, and it doesn't have to be realistic. We should like take bets. Like what's like a crazy thing that you think will happen? And so I got this. I was listening to this like comedy podcast I listened to, and one of the guys' predictions, they did this, and the guy's like, I think one of you's going to get divorced this year.
Oh boy!
And they were like, what? Like everyone was like, I hope not. Wild. Like that's not an anyone's thing. He's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's
mine. Mine will be Nancy Pelosi gets indicted for insider trading.
Ooh, that's a good
really. Here's my. This is not my prediction, but this is my prediction of what won't happen, because this is funny you said that, Dylan. Is not a single politician will go to jail or have consequences for anything they've done related to Epstein, related to trading, related to politics. None of them. The Somali thing in Minnesota, nothing will happen. Not a single person. There's zero consequences. We'll forget about it. In 2026, we'll be talking about some other scandal, and nobody will go to jail or face consequences.
Yeah, it's all just like, what can we do to fill the news, that sort of stuff. I think that's a tough one, Dylan, because I feel like even though she's like the ultimate enemy that, within the Democrats, for the Republicans, if she goes down, like there's a ton of people on both sides of the aisle. They're going to be like, what does that mean for us?
Here's what I believe.
They're doing
sure, but she's just the most blatant one. Like, if there's a target, like that has to be the easiest target.
Or is she the scapegoat? I don't know.
I'll say this: she's not the only one, but she is the most blatant, obvious.
I feel like all the other politicians would be like, okay, we'll rat her out as long as you like the swipe our stuff under the rug.
No, but the problem is you go after one, then there has to be the next most blatant one. And
here's what I believe when it comes to stuff like that. A lot of politicians are lawyers and they understand precedents. So if you go after one and you set precedents, that means that precedents can be used against anybody that has even any inkling of insider trading. And those guys are smart enough. They're not going to set precedents. They will protect their own.
Well,
they do that.
He said off the wall prediction.
That is a good prediction.
Yeah, that is a good prediction. That's a great one.
Just because you want it to happen doesn't mean it will.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so I think mine is. I think that this year, just with the way stuff has kind of gone, one of the big gurus. It's kind of broad, but like a Pace Morby, a Grant Cardone, right? One of like the big names. One of them will go down. I feel like we are due for one of like Ryan Pineda, like one of the ones that every sort of real estate person knows is going to go down because we're due for one of the big names to get their head cut off. Like we've already sort of seen that with some of them last year. We had Ty Lopez.
Ty Lopez and Matt Onofrio have to be the biggest that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, Matt Onofrio, though, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a guru because he didn't like we know that because we're in that circle. Like if you go talk to the average real estate person, they're not going to know him. A lot of people are going to know Ty Lopez.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like one of them is finally going to get busted for something sketchy.
It won't be Grant Cardone. He's partnered up with Eric Trump, and so he falls into the circle of will not go to jail or face consequences.
Absolutely.
Is it Eric Trump? Whatever one of the Trump brothers is. I don't remember.
Yeah. Jimmy,
Frankie. Jeff Trump. No, it was
Jeff. Donald.
Yeah. Whichever one my wife says she thinks is an alcoholic.
All of them.
That could be any of them.
Have you seen his his paper thin hands and his tremors? That's definitely alcoholism, bro.
So I believe Trump's not like himself as a non-alcoholic because there's enough like validation that he's not. He's many things, but I mean, it skips a generation. So his son probably has
syphilis from all of his promiscuous behavior.
Nah, dude, they were all too young to have it.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, my off-the-wall prediction is that nothing will happen from the Epstein files, and I have stood solidly on that. Nothing will come of that.
Dan was in the military. Dan's in the Epstein files. That's what I would do.
I only went there 10 times. Just it was what we did. That's what we did back in the 90s. Zero will happen.
It wasn't even your fault.
Yeah. I just watched it. Yeah. Zero things will happen. Like nothing. And I've been saying this since they said they're going to release them, since Trump was running in office saying that nothing's going to happen. Not a single person will go to like jail, not a politician.
What do you think it would take for something to come from that?
There's not enough. There's not enough.
There's not enough. Ironic,
no, but like there has to be some level where you think eventually something would like turn over. Or like where I think it gets tricky is they could literally have like video of these people committing the heinous acts, right? And people would say that's AI. Like
exactly. Here's the problem with this, right? Is we're in a place. I don't think this is just America. I think there's a lot of this worldwide, but we're in a place to where if we're like in America, we're a two-party system, right? So no matter what you say, you'll downplay your side's efforts in this Jeffrey Epstein thing, right? Like the Trump people, like, oh, Trump had nothing to do with it. He very well maybe didn't. I truly don't know. I have no idea. Like I can't even believe any of this shit coming out, right? But there's a lot of pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Are those AI generated? There's enough people saying that are on that side. It's not that big of a deal. It's like, it's okay for my side to do it, but not your side.
I don't think that is a two-party argument. I think that most of the red sides 100%. I think the Democrats, you could have fucking Bernie Sanders, you could have Obama, you could have anyone on there, and the Democrats would want them to go down 100%.
No, not true. Not true. It is. I don't think that's true at all. You think that if there's a Democrat that's like, I don't know, Bill Gates, he's definitely 100% Epstein. His wife fucking left him when that shit came out. They're not saying anything.
Yeah, they are.
He's a big donor.
You're just not in the circles, dude. Like people want like the average person, and even people who the left, they want everyone that's involved in that to go down.
Okay,
100%.
I will stop the argument right here. The Biden administration had the files and they didn't release them. That's my trump card. 100%. Sure. Nothing will ever happen. Everybody's involved on both sides, and I think the general public will either turn a blind eye or won't fully admit it. And what I'm not saying is like it's one or the other. What I'm saying is like, generally speaking, the mass of the Democratic Party and the mass of the Trump Party don't care.
Oh, well, I would like you're talking about like the high level people, like the politicians themselves, not the followers.
No. Yeah, I would say both. I would say generally speaking, if it came out that Biden was on the Epstein file, and I'm just using him because he's the most recent Democratic president, I don't believe he was. If it came out, people wouldn't. They would still be like, yeah, whatever. Just like if Trump is on it, they would be like, yeah, whatever.
I think every Democratic voter would want him to go down. 100%.
So,
I like the people, the
okay. So if they had, if they have actual evidence like footage, I'm talking about what it is right now. Like there's pictures of Trump. There's not going to be anything more than that.
Yeah, but so here's where it goes different. Is there are red side voters that are dismissive of Trump being in that, or like being involved. They're in denial of it being involved.
Yes,
but if any of like the big, Democrat darlings were on there, the Democrat voters would want them to go down.
Nope. I don't believe it.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on that.
We're going to 100% disagree on this because I'm not emotionally like I am a middle of the road moderate, and I see clowns on both sides of it, and I think it's bullshit, and I think it's stupid, and I strongly believe that nothing will happen of it.
The point for that is it's because the actual decision makers that have to pursue anything are equally as entangled in all the bullshit. So you're right. So nothing will come from it.
Nothing will come of it. That's my off the wall prediction.
Yeah,
and I've been saying that forever. It's not a conspiracy.
Yeah, I think so. And then big market sentiment, just really quick, we'll go lightning round. Where do you think housing is going to go in 2026? Up or down? Or
slightly up.
I'm going to go slightly up as well.
I think it's going to be averaging straight flat across the board.
Straight flat.
Like I will say it will be up or down less than 0.5% nationally.
Yeah. Valuation. I mean, when I say slightly up, I don't think I think, and here's why I say slightly down. I still think there's enough sentiment of like not enough housing, this, that. And I think the economy is going to kind of just like truck along again in 2026. So I don't think there'll be any reason, for anybody to sell or any, there's going to be the markets like Florida and Austin, which we saw, I think will kind of stabilize. So I just think it'll be slightly up. Yeah. There's nothing that's going to make it want to go down. There'll be local markets that are down.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, but
I think national
average, I think we'll see much the same. But cool. All right, guys. Anything else to wrap up?
I'm good.
All right. Well, right on, everybody. Well, Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in to listen to us rant about whatever the hell we talked about today. You guys have a great start of your year, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.
This episode is sponsored by Sir Lancelot LLC, also known as SLA Capital, which, if you didn't know, is Dan and I's private lending company. So yes, we are sponsoring our own show, but what you going to do about it? It is our private lending company that offers hard money and DSCR loans to real estate investors of all types. So you can be a new investor, an experienced investor. You can be buying flips. You can be buying rentals, whatever. We can do everything. And not only that, but the rates that we offer are just as competitive, if not cheaper, than pretty much every other company out there. So whatever big company you've been working with, bring us their term sheets and I guarantee you that we can probably beat it. We have the same connections they do. We just don't have all the overhead and middlemen. So if you want to come and check us out, go to slacapital.com/keys and I will know that you came from the show. And by seeing that you came from here, when you get to closing, you will save $500 on your first loan with us. So slacapital.com/keys, we would love to fund your next deal.